I'm looking at a number I don't want to see. An unexpected expense, big enough to matter. I can feel it, my chest getting tight, that tunnel vision starting to close in. Here's what's wild though. The number hasn't changed, but in the last 90 seconds, how much space this is taking up inside me, that's completely shifted. So here's version 1. This is a disaster. I'm behind. I'm never going to get ahead. The whole foundation just feels shaky. My entire inner world just shrunk down to this one problem. The stress is filling every corner. Or version 2. Same number. Okay. This is just a puzzle I need to solve. It's gonna take some creativity. Probably a tough conversation, but I've navigated harder. It's big, but it's not everything. The stress is still here, but now it's in one corner, not consuming the whole space. Same stressor, same brain, totally different experience. That shift, that's reappraisal, and it might be the most underrated mental fitness skill we have. So here's the thing that's easy to miss about stress. We talk about it like it's just out there. The deadline, the conflict, the financial hit, the diagnosis, as if the stressor itself determines the impact. But that's not actually how it works. Think about your own life. You've probably had moments where a relatively small stressor, a critical email, a scheduling conflict, completely derails your day. It takes up massive cognitive real estate. You're ruminating in the shower, distracted in meetings, tight in your body. And then other times, you handle something objectively bigger with way more ease. It's present, but you're dealing with it. And it hasn't colonized your whole inner world. In physical fitness, we'd say same weight, different capacity. A 50-pound backpack feels totally different depending on your conditioning. In mental fitness, it's the same principle. But here's what makes it interesting. We're not just talking about your baseline capacity. We're talking about a specific skill that changes how much space the stressor actually takes up. It's not about having a bigger container, though that matters too. It's about not letting the stress expand to fill every available inch. Most people think they're stuck with however their brain first reacts. Threat response kicks in, body tenses, thoughts spiral, and that's just what this stressor does to them. But here's what the research shows. You have way more agency than you think. Okay, let's get precise about what we're actually talking about. James Gross is a Stanford psychologist who spent decades studying emotional regulation. And one of his core findings is this: the strategy you use to handle emotion matters way more than most people realize. He identifies several strategies: suppression, just pushing it down; distraction, looking away; avoidance, not dealing with it at all. But the one that consistently performs best? Reappraisal. Here's his definition. Reappraisal is changing how you think about a situation in order to change your emotional response to it. Not denying the situation, not pretending it's fine. Changing the meaning you're making of it. Let's say you get critical feedback at work. Your first interpretation might be, they think I'm incompetent. I'm going to get fired. I don't belong here. The interpretation creates a threat response. Heart rate spikes, cortisol floods, your window of tolerance shrinks. All your cognitive resources go toward managing that threat. Reappraisal might sound like, this feedback is about one project, not my entire competence. They're investing time in making me better, which means they should see potential. This is hard information, but it's useful. Same feedback, different frame. And here's what Gross's research shows. It's not just that you feel better. Your physiology changes. Your cognitive performance changes. The actual amount of working memory consumed by the stressor decreases. Now, this is not toxic positivity. This is not just think positive or everything happens for a reason. Reappraisal doesn't say the stressor isn't real or hard. It says there are multiple true ways to interpret this, and some interpretations give you more access to your capacity than others. So you're not lying to yourself, you're choosing a frame that's both accurate and functional. So Gross gives us the what. Reappraisal changes the meaning, which changes the response. Kelly McGonigal, a health psychologist at Stanford, gives us something even more specific. The story you tell about stress itself changes your biology. Her research draws a distinction that's deceptively simple. When you interpret a stressor as a threat, something that might harm you, overwhelm you, something you're not equipped to handle, your body responds accordingly. Blood vessels constrict, cortisol stays elevated, your brain prioritizes survival over creativity or problem solving. You're in defend mode. When you interpret a stressor as a challenge, something difficult but navigable, something that requires your effort but is within reach, your body responds differently. Blood vessels stay open. You get a boost of energy, but it's mobilizing, not paralyzing. Your brain stays online for complex thinking. Here's what makes this wild. McGonigal's research shows that people who view stress as enhancing rather than debilitating have better health outcomes, better performance, and lower mortality rates. Not people who have less stress, people who frame it differently. Let me say that again, because it's easy to miss. The same amount of stress, but it's a different story about what that stress means. So it has measurably different outcomes. So when we talk about how much space stress takes up, McGonigal's work tells us that threat-framed stress expands. It colonizes. It demands all your resources because your system thinks survival is on the line. Challenge-framed stress, it's contained. Still effortful, still real, but it doesn't trigger the same shutdown response. You stay flexible. You keep access to more of your capacity. And here's the move. You can train this. It's not about pretending hard things aren't hard. It's about asking, is this a threat to my survival, or is this a challenge I'm capable of meeting? Most of the time, it's a challenge. Your system just hasn't been told that yet. So why are we talking about reappraisal in the capacity domain? Because capacity is about the size and availability of your inner container. How much can you hold? How much complexity, emotion, challenge, uncertainty can you navigate without shutting down or flooding? And here's the thing about reappraisal. It doesn't just help you manage what's in the container. It changes how much space things actually take up. Think about it. If you're threat framing a stressor, it's like that stress is expanding, filling every corner, pressing against the walls. There's no room for anything else. No bandwidth for creativity, connection, rest, joy. The container feels full or overflowing, even if objectively there's only one or two hard things happening. But when you reappraise, when you shift from threat to challenge, when you change the meaning you're making, that same stressor takes up less room. It's still there. You're still dealing with it, but now there's space around it. Space to think, space to feel other things, space to act with intention instead of just reacting. This is why reappraisal is a skill, not just a perspective. You're literally training your system to not let stress colonize all available capacity. In physical training, you build strength so you can carry more weight. In mental fitness, you build reappraisal skills so the same weight doesn't crush you. You're not eliminating stress. You're changing the relationship so it doesn't consume everything. So how do you actually train this? Because here's where most people get stuck. They understand reappraisal conceptually, but when stress hits, they're right back in the first reactive interpretation. The threat story grabs them before they even realize there's a choice. So let's break down what good reps actually look like. First, you have to catch your initial interpretation. And this takes awareness. When something stressful happens, your brain generates a story. This is a disaster. I can't handle this. This means I'm failing. You're not trying to stop that story. You're just trying to notice it's a story, not truth, not the only way to see it, a frame your brain offered up. Most people never get here. They experience the interpretation as reality. So step one is just, oh, well, that's the story my brain is telling right now. Once you've got some distance, you ask questions that open up other frames. Not, is this bad? That keeps you in the same territory. But better questions like, what else could be true about this? If I saw this as a challenge instead of a threat, what would change? What would I tell a friend in this situation? Is this actually dangerous or just uncomfortable? What's one thing I can do right now? You're not forcing positivity. You're generating alternative interpretations that might be equally true and more functional. Then you consciously choose. Not the frame that makes you feel best in the moment, the frame that keeps you most functional and connected to your values. Sometimes that frame is, this is hard, and I'm going to need support. That's still a challenge frame, not a threat frame. Sometimes it's, this matters, so it's worth the discomfort. Or other times it could be, I don't have control over the outcome, but I do have control over my effort. You're looking for the interpretation that keeps your window of tolerance open. There are some mistakes that are commonly made. Like mistake 1, trying to reappraise too fast. If you're flooded, you need to get regulated first. Reappraisal works best when you've got some space, not when you're in full threat response. Sometimes the first move is just breathing, moving, or calling someone. Mistake 2 could be using reappraisal to bypass a real problem. If the stressor actually requires action, a boundary, a hard conversation, a change, reappraisal isn't a substitute. It's what helps you take the action without getting swallowed by the stress. Mistake 3, confusing reappraisal with suppression. It's fine, I'm fine, everything's fine. That's not reappraisal, that's avoidance. Reappraisal acknowledges the difficulty and still finds a more functional frame. You'll know you're doing this well when stress stops feeling like something that happens to you and starts feeling like something you're in relationship with. It's still hard, but you've got room to breathe. So here's your rep for this week. Pick one stressor that's currently taking up space in your container. Not the biggest, scariest one, something moderate. A work situation, a relationship tension, a financial decision, whatever it may be. But for you, do this as step 1. Write down the first interpretation your brain offers. The automatic story, the reaction. Just get it on paper. This means I'm behind. This is going to fall apart. I'm not equipped for this. Whatever it is, write it down. Step 2, ask yourself McGonigal's question. Am I framing this as a threat or a challenge? Be honest. If it's threat framed, just notice that. Step 3, generate one alternative frame. Just one. Ask yourself what else could be true. If this were a challenge I'm capable of meeting, how would I see it? Write that down too. Then step 4, over the next week, practice choosing the challenge frame when this stressor comes up. Not pretending the threat frame isn't there, just actively choosing the other one. See what changes. You're training your brain that there's more than one way to interpret hard things, and that you get to choose the frame that keeps you functional. That's the rep. 1 stressor, 2 frames, 1 week of practice. Here's what I want you to remember. The stressor is real. The difficulty is real. We're not pretending otherwise. But how much space it takes up, that's more in your control than you think. Reappraisal isn't about toxic positivity or bypassing hard things. It's about recognizing that your brain's first interpretation isn't the only true one. And some interpretations give you more access to your capacity than others. You can train this. It gets easier. And when you do, stress stops colonizing your whole inner world. It's still there, but now there's room for everything else too. That's mental fitness.